when me and my dad have conversation about racism in Italy, I think we always say that it's predominantly ignorance and also microaggressions. And I think that's what, many people in Italy are kind of suffering at the moment. And I think things are getting even worse since when I left, in terms of like, with the immigration issues and also with the refugees and stuff. And I feel like the media is somehow shifting their focus on them rather than focusing on the real problem. And I think that's kind of where the birth of racism, because people don't really think that, oh, that could be, but that's how it starts from
Audio Jungle.
All right, so Ada, tell me about your return to Italy and what were your feelings when you got back about your identity again? Because now you're back in a predominantly white environment. A culture is very familiar to you, obviously, the language and everything, but you've now seen another world.
I guess like living here as well in the UK for like I've lived here for several years, and going back for holidays to visit my parents and friends. I've kind of seen like a different aspect of Italy that maybe I kind of knew, but I do not know because I wasn't really aware. I can't, and now I'm much more aware. I feel like going back to Italy with more self-awareness, I feel like it is very, in a way, very close-minded, but not only with immigrants. Like I feel like with other people from other countries and backgrounds. So I think it's which I think the country has to change in a massive way. And I guess that's why when I was talking to my dad, when me and my dad have conversation about racism in Italy, I think we always say that it's predominantly ignorance and also microaggressions. And I think that's what many people in Italy are kind of suffering at the moment. And I think things are getting even worse since when I left, in terms of like with the immigration issues and also with the refugees and stuff. And I feel like the media is somehow shifting their focus on them rather than focusing on the real problem. And I think that's kind of where the birth of racism, because people don't really think that, oh, that could be, but that's how it starts from media propaganda. It starts from sharing negative stories about people who maybe, I'm not saying I'm sure that there's good people and bad people, but they always try to focus on the negative aspect of what immigrants do and what the refugees do. And I think there's like also level of disparity, and also I would say classism between Africans that were, like I said, Africans that are born in Italy, like the Afro-Italians, how the classify themselves, and also with the refugees who come from seas or other migrant workers as well. And I feel like it's really sad because I feel like we should be to fight in this together, and I feel like we're all in a way victim of this oppression from the government and also from media. And I think we're slightly just falling into that trap. And that's why sometimes I really get pissed off when people do things on social media. They're like advocate for them, they do this, and then in reality they don't want to socialize or hang out the people who really need the most. So I see like there's a lot of differences in all places, not just between Italians and African Italians, but also between Italians, African Italians, and also between African Italians and also with the migrant workers.
I'll be interested to know about the wave of immigration in Italy as you've seen it in your life, because in England it was most prominent in my lifetime. I understood the Windrush era. That's when a lot of people came from the Caribbean and took over some certain jobs in general, and they suffered a lot of discrimination, specifically with the Irish. So there were actually places that would not welcome guests if they were Irish or black or dogs. So you had those three categories. But then the Irish then made their way through, Same thing in America. So what were the waves of immigration that brought comes to the Africans in Italy, as you understand it?
I think it started like I think there's like kind of a waves. I think in the probably late 90s, but I think it became worse when like Libya sort of had, you know, the war in Libya, and there's a massive flux of immigration that came from, you know, because there's not more security, and you know Libya was so like, kind of a way that kind of really stopped the flow of immigrations. But ever since, you know, the war happened and there's like like Libya has been destabilized, so there's a lot of like flow, but it's still a lot, but it's not a lot in a way like the media make it seem that is everyday people are coming, but it's not true. It's like, yes, people are coming, but you know, like what the European Union does is like they try to divide them in different regions across the European Union. But again, that's what the media do. The media doesn't really explain, you know, the statistics of how many refugees Italy take every day, or how many refugees Italy take every month, or you know, every week. They only say the only thing they show is like, oh, boats are coming every day, but that's not true. Because I remember when I went to South Italy in Taranto, and I remember I kind of worked for this NGO for like a couple of weeks when I was doing like a documentary project. I didn't see any boats like for the 10 days I was there. Like, you know, the media say this every day. I didn't see any boats. And when I was talking to the staff, the staff will say that, you know, it happens maybe once every 3 or 4 months. So it's not something that happens regularly, but the media is going to like paint it, you know, in a way to say, oh, it's every day, because they always, and that's how discrimination started. They always want to somehow use the refugees as a way to actually divert the Italian population from what actually is the problem, which is, you know, the unemployment rate. They don't even say that how much, you know, how many Italians, you know, leave their countries to go to Germany or other places across Europe. They don't say those things. You know, they don't even say, you know, even here in the UK, Italians face discriminations. You know, I've seen people saying that, you know, we steal their jobs and stuff like that. We face here discrimination as well, but they don't show those aspects. They only show, you know, what favors them, because they want to, you know, shy away the actual problem and the reality. And I think that's really dangerous.
Yeah, I do think about this, the power of the media, because I work in it. You also produce films,
Yeah.
and the idea of the image and what stories it tells. And I think that's actually one of the motivational forces for me creating this platform, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not really about one person, it's about multiple voices telling their story.
Yeah.
And you can never understand somebody without the context. And a lot of the time, I feel that people of color and other people are taken advantage of emotionally. You know, you just have to know somebody's weakness and you can actually control what they do. So if you know people are unemployed, just divert them and say, well, you know why you're unemployed? They took your jobs.
Yeah.
And you're off. And you got a whole group of people expending their energy on each other. When, if you, as you say, if you look at the statistics, you'll see mismanagement of funds and all sorts of things happen, motivated by greed. And ultimately, I think racism is just about greed.
Yeah, I think I think it's more like, I think it's a constructive thing that, you know, the government somehow puts in a way. You know, when it started in the I remember when it started in the US, it started like, you know, when Italians moved to the US, also they were discriminated as well. You know, they left for various reasons, and you know, immigration, you know, everyone migrates to different countries for all sorts of reasons. You know, someone wants to, you know, change environment, someone wants to, like, you know, have new experiences, someone go for greener pastures, you know, someone escaping war. Like we cannot say that, you know, it's like immigration it's been, you know, long even before men migrated like for years and centuries. So we cannot say that, you know, we need to stop immigration, because that's never going to happen. It's impossible. You know, everyone, you know, the same way I'm here because I want new opportunities. You're in Amsterdam because you want new opportunities. Like, we have, I don't think it's fair, people who maybe are in a way, let's say in a better position can say, okay, yeah, I want to go to US for a year. I want to do like, study for a year, 2 years. And maybe they might go there and say, okay, I love this place. I want to stay here, live here and work here. Why would if you go to American government, if you're being good, why would you want the government to stop you from living there if you actually love the city? And that's the same way they're doing with these people. Like, people, most of them escape from wars and they escape from poverty, and they want to change their life because they're tired of that situation. Why do we have to stop them from changing their life for the better? And
I also find it interesting that, as you say, if you have a destabilized continent or country,
yeah,
don't be surprised if there's going to be an influx of people moving. So that's what always makes me kind of like frown when I hear the discussion, oh, it's too many immigrants. Well, then leave those countries alone. And maybe it wouldn't be the... So yeah, I just find it curious. And now I wanted to talk about your process. How does your culture and heritage inform your choice of career? Or maybe didn't inform your choice of career? I just wanted you to share a little bit more around that connection.
You mean like career, work-wise?
Yeah.
Well, so for example, my parents, they're both immigrants, but they had to do like low skills job. For example, my dad, he's a lawyer, but he didn't actually work as a lawyer because he wasn't able to do that. So they've always sort of pushed me and my siblings, to work harder, to study hard, to not do, the same lifestyle that they're doing because, they want us to do better. So they've always actually pushed us to kind of like achieve our best, and which I've always had in my mind. So I've grew up with this ambition to do something great. I think maybe because I've actually inherited it from my parents, but also like, growing up and also like, discovering myself as a woman, as a human. I just want to do something that makes me really happy, to be honest. I don't want to, do things because I want to please my parents. And that's the thing. And I think that's a problem between the African communities. Like, your parents will force you to do something because they want you to do better. They want you to become a lawyer. They want you to become this. And I'm quite lucky that my parents let me do what I did, like study photography, do what I did. I'm quite lucky and privileged to have, parents that create understanding. But I also know, like in other homes, parents do not allow their children, to study art or music or whatever they love. They want them to do like interesting or jobs that gives them income. And which is, I think, is an interesting topic, and it's an interesting conversation that can go on for hours, but I will not go into that. But I think for me, it's more like I just kind of wanted to do something that made me feel happy, and which I can somehow, be able to express myself in all forms of ways. And yeah, but I think also when I came here to the UK, I kind of really, when I also looking for jobs in my career, in my field, I kind of felt like there was also an element of kind of racism, like, they say you need to know this person to get into the job, or you need to, you need to somehow like have this social thing to get this job, or maybe they'll prefer that person to that person. So in a way, like even for me as a Black woman to get into the field is quite hard. And well, I'm not saying it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's much more harder for me to succeed in that, to get that job than maybe someone who is, I don't know, British born here. It's much easier than for me, in a way. Even though we had the same skills, or even though maybe my skills they'll prefer that person, because that's how the society, not society, is that's how the how will I say it?
I think it's like the old boys network. In England, there's the old boys network. We call it
Yeah,
just
like
go to the right schools, and
yeah,
you've grown up together. Your parents hang out together. You go to the same
yeah,
clubs. You, as in, private members clubs and stuff like that. And it's I found it quite classist.
Yeah, no, I think the
And
art world is quite, and especially creative industry is quite like that. It's more like if you're middle class, rich, or if you know people, you're much more likely to, to have those jobs than someone who comes from a very different economic background, I guess. So in a way, again, that's privilege, right?
I
So,
think so. I think it's also like if you're outside of that, you really have to break into the
yeah,
industry, meaning you have to
yeah,
cause a real stir. You have to have something very provocative. I mean, in general, you have to be quite provocative, I think,
yeah.
as an artist. Please like and subscribe. Shattered Hues Films.